Hello, welcome to more yoga with me, Emily. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you're having an awesome day and you're not too freaked out by seeing some props in front of me. So, your options today, if you have a strap, straps are great, and this would be my preferred tool to use today. If you have a dowel instead or a broomstick, awesome, very useful as well. If you have neither of those, you can definitely figure something out, right? You could get a blanket, you could get a towel. So long as it's, you know, long enough, sort of corner to corner, that you can take outer shoulder width apart with your hands. I just saw my kid's toy pirate sword. So if you have one of those, that could work. But what we're going to do today is get into the chest and shoulders, a little bit into the neck as well. Um, and yeah, that's it. So let's start lying down. If you're comfortable there, um, yeah, if you want to stay seated, you can, but we'll eventually make our way down onto our backs. And depending on how your day has been so far, you might need some time to get some wiggles out, or maybe take a couple windshield wipers of the legs. But then eventually start to make your way into a position where you feel like you can be still for a few moments here. And then for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. A couple more. And then continue breathing however feels best for you today, whether it's in and out through your nose or your mouth. And there's nothing to fix or change, so there's no need to deepen the breath. But I do want you to notice it, start to observe your breath. Excuse me. Notice how it's flowing, how it feels. Maybe there are some sticky or choppy spots along the way. Maybe it feels totally smooth. Maybe you need to clear your throat. But simply observe. And your mind will start to wander. Of course it will. When you notice that happening, acknowledge whatever thought you might be having without judgment, with compassion for yourself. But then try to let it go and bring your focus back to your breath. And every time we are able to do that, that's yoga. Simply being here and now. Last few breaths here. All right, start to bring a little bit of movement back into your body. Whatever way feels best for you to wake up. Could be little movements, it could be a big yawning stretch. And then reach your legs away from you on the floor. Interlace your fingers, press your palms away from you overhead. Your elbows can be deeply bent here, they don't need to be straight. And then point your toes away from you. Lift your low back up off the floor. And then exhale. press the low back into the earth. And then we'll do that same thing, but this time with the toes peeling back, reach the heels away from you. Inhale, lift the low back up off the floor. And then exhale, press it down. And then draw your knees in toward you. You could take a little rock from side to side. You might clasp your hands over top your shins. You might have one hand to each knee or shin. And then start to draw circles with your thigh bones here. So your thighs could stay connected as you draw these circles, or they might separate, kind of like the breaststroke or frog legs. Last couple breaths here. All right, and then pause in the middle. You could stay here with one hand on each leg, or you might clasp your hands over top of your shins. If that's not available to you, but you still want the deeper stretch, you could use a strap and pull it down, or pull your shins down in toward you. All right, and then the next option would be to gently curl your nose toward your knees without tensing into the neck and shoulders. Last option is to press your shins away from you, getting a more rounding through the spine. All right, and then release back down to the earth. Take a little windshield wiper of your legs here. You're probably wondering, what does any of this have to do with your chest and shoulders? Well, let's get into it now. So roll onto your belly. And then set up with your hands or your arms out in a T. If you have a pillow or a chip foam block or something you could bring underneath your head, that's a great thing to have now. And then extend your right arm out to the side. Elbow could be bent or straight. And then come up onto the fingertips on your left hand, elbow high. And then start to press into the left fingertips to slowly roll your body over top of the right shoulder. Now you can pause anywhere along the way that feels, a bit more intense. Maybe you're able to stack your hips here, in which case you could bend the top knee and kickstand the sole of the foot or the foot behind you. You might need to play with the angle on your arm. Last option would be to drape the top arm behind your low back. And my leg is cramping, so don't mind what I'm doing, but stay where you are for a few more breaths. So starting to open into the front of the chest, the front of the shoulder and the chest. And then slowly as you came into it, start to unwind. And then once you make your way back onto your belly, can you try to not move your right arm for a couple breaths? Just let the fascia rebound, let the stretch release. Now we have so much going on in those joints. It's important to take time rather than rebounding right away. And then extend your left arm out to the side. Again, elbow could be bent if you wish. Press into the fingertips on the right hand. Slowly roll yourself over top of the left shoulder. Right, only going as far as feels okay on your body. Right? If your hips stack, then you might bend the top knee, kickstand your foot behind you. Maybe you drape the right arm behind the low back. Or whatever arm is the top arm for you. So a few breaths here, and it might feel tighter on one side than on the other. That is totally normal. It is also normal for both sides to feel equally tight. A few more breaths here. And slowly start to unravel. Make your way back onto your belly. And again, pause for a couple breaths if you can before you start to move your left arm. Plant your hands underneath your shoulders and then press yourself all the way back into a child's pose. You could have your knees together, or you could take the knees wide, depending on what you feel is best on your body today. Your arms could stay extended, or you could bend your elbows and chicken wing your arms underneath your shoulders. You could wrap your arms around your body, wherever feels best for you. A few more breaths here. And slowly press yourself back up to hands and knees. Let's take a little wiggle or shake here. And then let's start to move through cat and cow. So as you inhale, lift your tailbone, hollow through your lower back, broaden through your collarbones, little micro bend on those elbows. And then exhale, tuck your tailbone under, round through your spine, really press the floor away from you. Inhale to dip the belly into cow. Exhale, round your spine into cat. So a few more of these undulations, right on your own time, on your own breath. And as always, if there's any other natural movement that would feel good here, please feel free to add on. It could be a little wag of your tail from side to side. It could be barrel rolls through your chest or shoulders. You could snake toward the floor. Go where you need to go. All right, and then come back to center. And then let's just step straight into not downward facing dog, into standing forward fold. Sometimes a little bit awkward from hands and knees, but take your time getting there. If you want more support today, you could rest your elbows on your knees or your thighs. You could clasp opposite elbows with hands to get more traction through your spine. This is a fantastic place to bring blocks underneath your hands, to bring the floor up to you. You could sway a little bit from side to side. Right? Go wherever you need to go. Last couple breaths here. And then release your fingers or hands if they're bound. And bring your fingertips to your shins or blocks or the earth. Inhale, little partway lift, belly bend to spine. Back the neck stays long. Micro bend the knees. Exhale, let it all go. Couple more. And then bend your knees, tuck your chin in toward your chest. Slowly start to roll up to standing. One vertebra at a time. As slow as you need to go. Till eventually you come all the way up. Couple loops of your shoulders. Up, back, and down. A little wiggle, noodle, or shake out. I gotta fix my hair. Give me 1 second. Keep swaying. Keep doing hip circles. Whatever you need to do to release. All right. Grab your strap or alternatively your dowel if you don't have a strap. Why do I like the strap for this? It just gives you a little bit more feedback. It's harder. it's you know, that's all. And then take your hands, palms facing back, in a really nice wide grip, as wide as you can, depending on well, not all the way as wide as sort of your implement allows you to. For me, I've got the strap pretty much at my hip flexors at the hip joint. And I want tension, right? This is where with the dowel, you can kind of be loosey-goosey because it's just a solid thing. But with a strap, as soon as you have that bagginess, you know you're not doing quite as much work as you could be. And then squeeze the bum, belly button to spine, shoulder blades on your back. On your inhale, start to bring your strap up and overhead. Now, as soon as we get here, we kind of tend to dump into the low back. So make sure that you keep knitting your low ribs to the top of the pelvis, squeeze the bum, and then maybe start to bring the strap back behind you a little bit. This is a fantastic place to stop. You might bring the strap forward again, or maybe you bring the strap all the way back behind you. Now, first option would be to let go, bring the strap back forward, or maybe still tension on the strap. Bring it up again without dumping into the posture, and then lower it in front of you. So these are called shoulder flossing. So we're going to do a few more of these on your own time, on your own breath. And if at any point you feel like you've lost tension on the strap or you have to bend your elbows, take your hands wider. It'll give you a lot more space, right? A lot more grace to do this movement. If, however, you feel like no big deal, then take your hands narrower, and then you will really start to feel the opening through the shoulders. If you have an injury, only go so far as you can without pain. Okay, so last few of these, because I talked a lot as you were moving. All right, and then shake it out a little bit. Narrow your grip a little bit on your strap or your dowel, so it's more like outer shoulder width apart, like your downward facing dog width, you might say. And then inhale the strap up overhead. Again, find your posture, right? So you're not dumping into the low back. And then bring the strap or dowel back behind the neck. Pause just at the nape of the neck, and then bring it back up. So you don't want to go down below the level of the shoulders. A couple more of these. Tension on the strap the whole time, or on the dowel, like you're trying to rip it in half. These are called pull aparts. So that's why we're doing that motion, right? It's just firing up the shoulders a little bit. All right, and then release. Shake it out a little bit. Similar sort of grip on the strap or dowel. Inhale the arms up overhead. As you exhale, bring the arms over to the left. Send your hips to the right. So sometimes I like to go so far over that actually my weight's all on my right foot. And then pull down with the bottom strap, resist, or with the bottom hand, resist with the top hand. And you'll feel that into the armpit. And our poor armpits, we put deodorant on and then cover them up and then try to leave them closed all day. But there's so much going on there, lymph nodes, muscle attachments. It's nice to get into that spot. All right, and then come to both feet. Bend your knees, round through the spine, pull over to the left. You can stay up higher, you can roll down lower. All right. And then come back to center, shake out the arms, get the blood flow back, and then we'll switch sides. So inhale up, exhale over to the right this time, hips to the left. Maybe you send your weight all the way over to the left foot, and then pull down with the right hand as you resist with the left. Or if you're on the opposite side, pull down with the bottom hand. Resist with the top hand. And then bend both knees, tuck your tailbone under, round through your spine, pull over to the top right corner. And then slowly release, shake everything out a little bit. Whew. All right. And then hands again, just outer hip width apart. We're going to do one chair pose. I know. So sit your hips down and back. All right, shoulder blades on your back. Make sure your knees aren't caving in. Send them out. And then bring your arms up in front of you. You might narrow the grip a little bit. I want you to retract the shoulder blades. Sit low, so hips low, heart high. You might stay here, you might start to raise it up. Only so much as you can before you have to sort of dump into the low back or the torso falls forward. And then bring it down. 2 more of those. All right, stand up, shake out the legs, and then bring your strap or your dowel, whatever you're using, behind you. Palms facing back to start with. And then hands maybe outer hip width or a little bit wider. Bend your knees. Elbows can be bent to start with. And then come into your forward fold. All right, so again, knees can be deeply bent. They do not need to be straight here. And in fact, I encourage a micro bend at least. From here, wrap your shoulder blades onto your back, right? So your shoulders aren't dipping forward. Tension on the dowel or strap. And maybe you start to lift the strap or dowel up away from your low back. Maybe you start to reach it up to the sky. But again, make sure the shoulders don't dip forward. Wrap them onto your back. Maybe you start to reach them towards the top edge of your mat. Here, you could rock a little bit from side to side. So we're getting a hamstring release here, but also mostly what I want you to focus on is the opening through the chest and shoulders. All right, and then bring the strap back to your sacrum or the dowel. Switch the grip. So if you were palms up, do palms facing down now. Same thing. Wrap the shoulder blades toward each other, and then inhale, lift the strap away from your body as much as feels good. Make sure the shoulders don't dip forward. Keep wrapping the shoulder blades toward each other. Again, you might sway a little bit from side to side. Last couple breaths here. And then slowly release the dowel or strap all the way off to the side. Bring your fingertips to your shins or blocks. Inhale, a little part way left. Exhale, fold. 2 more. Right, so just equalizing the blood pressure after being in an inversion for a long time. And then bend your knees, plant your hands, come down to hands and knees. Little wiggle or shake or cat and cow. And then shift your hips on one side, swing your legs forward, take a little windshield wiper of those knees. And then we'll do a little bit of a neck release before we come down to the mat. You can sit up on a block or 2. Right? Sometimes this isn't enough. You want a little bit more width for your body underneath you. Awesome. You don't have to sit up on anything if you don't want to. All right, so keeping your spine nice and long, bring your left ear to your shoulder. This might be enough for you. If you'd like to deepen it, reach the right fingertips away. If you'd like even more, gently add the weight of your left hands to your head without yanking or pulling down. Let the breath start to slow down. All right, maintaining the lateral flexion. Start to turn, right? Rotate your nose toward your shoulder. Tuck your chin under a little bit more. If you have your hand on your head, it's kind of like you're trying to smell your armpit, which I know sounds crude, but it's a really good image. If you have your hand on your head, release it. Gently bring your chin to your chest. Maybe take a couple little half moon circles or little loops of the shoulders or a head bobble just to release. And then we'll switch sides. So bring your right ear to your shoulder. Again, this might be enough. Different side can be totally different, right? Maybe you extend the left fingertips away. And maybe you gently add the weight of the right hands to the head. And as I said, it's often normal for one side to be tighter than the other. Usually your dominant side is tighter, but not always. If you sleep on one side, it could be that side. All right. Again, maintaining the lateral flexion. Turn your nose toward your shoulder. Tuck your chin under a little bit more. And then gently release your chin to your chest. A couple little half moon circles or head bobble. And then unwind your legs. Remove anything out from underneath you might have. Plant your feet. Bring your palms or your hands behind you. Fingertips point back. And then press into your hands and feet just to shift your hips forward a little bit. From here, wrap your elbows, your shoulder blades toward each other. Lift your heart up into the sky. So one last chest and shoulder release before we come down to the earth. Really think of pressing the pointer finger knuckle mounds into the earth. This is one of the best things that you could do every day as a counter stretch to working at a desk, or even if you do a lot of downward facing dog. And then gently bend your elbows, shake out your arms, and then make your way down onto your back. You could just use your hands to come down. You could do a Pilates style roll down. You could come to one side first, particularly if you're pregnant. Please don't do this. And then hug your knees into your chest. Little rock from side to side. We'll end with a quick twist. Bring your right arm out to the side. Maybe you shift your hips right a little bit. And then exhale, lower the knees to the left. Maybe you feel like you have a little bit more range of motion here, or at least that your right shoulder blade maybe isn't lifting up off the earth as much as it normally does. Maybe it's still floating and the knees are still floating, and that's totally fine. Right? In fact, that's quite normal. Last breath here. All right. And then unwind your legs. Return to center. Reset the pelvis and spine. Maybe you shift the hips left a little bit. Left arm out to the side. Exhale. Lower your knees to the right. Again, as gentle or as deep of a twist as you need, but we don't have a lot of time. Last few breaths here. And then on your inhale, return to center. And then make your way into your final resting pose. You could be flat on your back, legs bent, or straight in Shavasana. You could rest on your side, legs up the wall, child's pose, wherever you need to go. And it doesn't have to be symmetrical, but it should be a place where you can be at ease. And there's no rush to find your pose of rest, but once you're there, for 3 breaths, inhale through your nose. Exhale, sigh your breath away. Couple more. And then let go of your breath control. Let go of any last muscle gripping or tension, particularly in your face or your jaw. With each exhale, let your body melt a little bit deeper into the earth. And stay here longer if you can, 5 or 10 minutes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.